Alright players, so let me give you some tips and clues how to do pawn endings. So first of all players, you have to understand that when we are in a pawn ending, or what we call the third stage of the game, which is endgame, okay, we are trying to promote our pawn because we can't force a checkmate with our pawns. Do you understand? So since we can't force a checkmate with our pawns, we need to use our king as an attacker. That's the first principle in the endgame. We activate our king. That's why when you play pawn structure, I always tell you to move out your king to help your pawns to promote.
Your king is more powerful.
Yes, that is true. Very good, Ian. When it is pawn structure or endgame, the king becomes powerful because there are less pieces on the board. Right? Because the objective of the game is to create checkmate. So that's why in the opening, in the middle game, the king must be hidden. The king must be safe, right? Because there's a lot of pieces. But when you reach endgame, you get to use your king outside of the position and use it as an attacker and defender. Okay? So let's continue. So here in this position, you have to know your objective. You want to promote. Then you should ask yourself which of your pawns you want to promote. As I said, in endgame, as in this position, you should know what is your objective. You want to promote. So, if you want to promote, which of your pawn has more possibility to promote? Is it the A2 pawn or the C2 pawn?
C2.
Okay, so now when we decide which pawns what we want to promote, you have to figure out how can this pawn promote. So let's try to just do what we want to do, to push our pawn. If we push our pawn to C4, what will happen?
Capture.
Yes, our opponent will just capture our pawn.
So,
that is correct. So what does that tell us? It means that when you know what is your objective, the next thing to do is to try to know what your opponent can do against your objective. So here in this position, you play C4, your opponent can capture you. Right? So now we know our opponent's plan to stop our plan. So will we continue C4? No, right? Because he can capture our pawn. Very good. Now we will try to adjust. We will try to fix the problem in our plan. Yes, fix the problem. Or fix the problem. Fix the problem. Right? C3. Now, when we play C3, our opponent is actually in a ZUGZWANG position. ZUGZWANG is not stalemate. Stalemate is when your opponent can't move anywhere legally. Right? But this one, your opponent can still move. His king can't move, but this pawn can still move. But why is it called ZUGZWANG, coach? Because ZUGZWANG means whatever your opponent moves, you will still win the game. Why? For example, this is the only move that black can do. Since we stop our pawn moving 2 squares forward and we just played up to C3, our opponent is forced to play B4. Now, since we want to promote, what do you think is our best move in this position?
C4. C4. C4.
Yvain? Yes, good job. C4. If we want to promote, we don't want to exchange the pawns because if we capture this pawn, the king can capture back, correct? So that's why we have to play C4. Yeah. So what happens after C4, coach? Isn't it that his pawn is about to promote as well? No, this is different. As you can see, at first, before we even play the pawn, it looks like that his king is much more active. But actually, we are more active defensively. Why? Because after C3, B4, C4, the king of our opponent is behind of our passed pawn. And the king can only move 1 square at a time. Is that clear? So, when we play C4, he's forced to play B3. We don't even need to capture the pawn. We just need to push it. Right? So, if he plays pawn capture A2, oh no, we're under check. Obviously, you will not go here because your opponent can promote. So we have to know our opponent's objective as well. And we have to find a way to stop our opponent's objective. King A1. Now the king will try to chase our pawn. But then, right after that, whatever our opponent do, we can still promote into a queen, and then now we can force a checkmate. And every one of you has been my private student, so meaning to say you know how to do king and queen versus king. This is an important idea that you have to understand, that first of all, in endgame, if you want to promote, you have to know first which of your pawn has the possibility to promote. And then the next thing to ask yourself is that what will your opponent do to stop you from promoting?
And where can you move?
Yes, very good. And how can you adjust yourself in how to stop your opponent's plan on stopping you? Is that clear?
Clear.
All right, very good. So, do you have any questions at all with our discussion about the pawn promotion in endgame?